Hey guys, Professor Bill, Comic Book University, and Inferno, issue number 1. Oh my god, Professor Bill is looking at an X-Men comic book again. Had a quick little conversation on Discord, just had to go and look at this book, god damn it. Look, man, I'm going to get into all that good stuff a little bit later on in the video. I'm going to first review the video, and before that we're going to actually talk about who made the book. So let's talk about it here. It's funny, it says Inferno at the top. I haven't looked at the cipher in a really long time, the cipher that I transcribed, but that's cool. That's cool. I figured it out. I deciphered the cipher. It's cool. But I sat there and I was sitting looking and I just right away, boom, I was like, oh, that says Inferno on top. And I'm like, oh, that's not English. That's that Krakoan language. It's so funny that I still see that. Oh man. Anyway, Jonathan Hickman is the writer. Valerio Scheide is the artist. David Curiel on color art. VC's Joe Sabino doing the letters. And the design is by Tom Mueller. Pepe Larez doing the cover art along with Marte Gracia. Good to see Stanley Artgerm Lau still doing some work because I haven't seen his name in a while doing comic books. I'm like, that's just one of the best comic book cover artists out there, you know? And Greg Capullo doing a variant cover out there. That's okay. Has Capullo been usually I see Capullo on DC stuff, specifically Batman stuff, you know? Has Capullo been doing stuff for Marvel? Is this his first one? That's okay. Cool, baby. Cool. Let's go. So we start off with the X-Force. That's Wolverine, Domino, and Kid Omega. And they're going after Orcus again. You get to see this little list of all the times that they've tried to go after. Magneto had an aneurysm at one point. Did they actually show that? I haven't been reading the comic books since the last time I did a review. I haven't been reading the X-Men comic books, any of the X comics at all, for a while. That's bad and that's good. So I don't know necessarily what's been happening in between, but here's my first I don't know, my first review on this comic book. I was able to jump into this particular issue, this Inferno issue number 1, and I knew exactly where I was supposed to be. Look, I know that there's probably plenty of smaller detail, lots of story, obviously, and connective tissue that I'm missing. But as it stands right now, after having not read the comic books for, what's it been, 6 months now? 5 months, whatever it is. I sat down, I started reading this, and I'm good. I'm good. Now, I couldn't sit down and start reading this, and that is an issue. That is a critique. If I never read any of the House of X, the Hoxpox books, all right, I wouldn't know where to go from here. But that's fine. As long as at some point somewhere in these stories they tell you, hey, you have to have read Hoxpox. That's 10 issues, 5 Hawks, 5 Pox, all right? The House of X, The Powers of 10. You have to have read those 10 books. You read those, boom. You can follow anything in the X universe from this point on. That's how it was with this comic book. If that's also how it was with, or how it could be with any other number 1 that they do from this point on until they're done with Hoxpox, then boom, I'm golden. I don't care if it's in the Dawn of X, in the X of Swords, which I finally moved my X of Swords stuff over here. This is the top part. From here up is all my X of Swords stuff. I still haven't read it. I read the first 2, issue 3 through the end. I still haven't read it. I actually just moved it from here over there because I'm going to store them away. I'm sick of them being here cluttering up space. Books that I'm clearly not going to read. I just have no interest in. Anyway, and enough of you seem to have been disappointed that you agree that it was a good idea that I didn't read that, so as to not get frustrated with it. Something frustrated me in this book and caused me to skip some stuff. Some people are going to be upset. Nobody wants to hear that a reviewer didn't read something in the comic book, but I'm going to explain, and I have a get out of jail free card for that. But like I said, a great sign of a solid writer. Somebody who has planned ahead, who's done outlines and everything, who's not just writing from the seat of his pants, like many other writers, even right now in Marvel. Somebody who actually planned out in advance, this is in some detail, this is the stuff that I'm going to be doing. Maybe even wrote 6, 7, 20 issues for the future that we haven't gotten to yet. Who knows? Hickman, the son of a gun, he knows what the hell he's doing. No one can take that from this guy. You can't be good enough to write interesting stories out of nowhere. Some of his stories suck. Let's be realistic. It's not like a light switch. There's a whole range of good stuff, but most of the stuff seems to be on this side of the line, the good side. The stuff that you're reading, you're like, all right, or better. This is one of those. This was good. One of the main reasons why it was good is because without having read the comics for a while, all I needed was those Hoxpox books. And boom, I could say, there's some pieces that I missed. There's some pieces that I didn't miss. I know exactly where we are. Let's go from this point forward. I don't have to sit there and go, I'm confused. I don't know what's going on. There's going to be a bunch of people who like to defend their favorite writers who don't do that. The writers who, no, we're on issue number 42. You have to, so you missed 41 issues. You can't just jump on from this. I understand when you like a writer, but you, at some point, hopefully you'll understand that it is a necessity to get new readers to come in who are not going to go back and read the previous issues. That's not how comic books were ever made. And especially when you're talking about monthly sales and whatnot, come on, that's not the way the comic books were originally made. It is not an evolution to say you have to read everything. No, it would be an evolution to be able to say I can jump in anywhere, even in part 3 of a mini series, and still be able to jump on. That's probably taking it a bit too far, but wouldn't that be one hell of a writer who could do something like that? Hickman seems to be one of those guys. At the very least, I guarantee you he's that guy when it comes to anything called number 1. You could jump on that book and you will feel as though I didn't miss enough that I can't read this comic book, and it might make me go back and read some more stuff. That is the sign of a brilliant writer. Enough of that. Let's go on to Valerio Scheide's stuff really quick and just get out the fact that freaking amazing artist, right? When you got David Curiel on the art also, David's one of those guys that even if there's a horrible artist, they're still going to get a good picture coming to you, right? So one of those people who understands shades and lights, right? Or shades and tints. How about that? Understands those ideas, understands those concepts in art, not just basic color wheel, red and blue make, what is red and blue? Purple. You know, no. David's somebody who can take anything and turn it into something that is palatable. Art palette, you get it? Anyway, you're not here for the jokes, peeps. But when you have somebody like Valerio Scheide, who can take the most intricate detail and make it visible, you're talking about a power team right here. You know what I'm saying? This is like those old power bands back in the day. You know what I'm saying? You can have all these different guys from all these different bands, you know, just, oh, that's cool. But all of a sudden they come together and they meet and they put something together that's just like, whoa, right? It's kind of like what we want to do in school lunches, right? You got this, you got this, you got that. I got this. Let's trade. Let's go, right? Try to make the perfect meal right here. Anyway, VC's Josepino, the design of the book in and of itself. Listen, this feels like the modern day X books. Think about that. Everybody can go back and look at the Cochran books, right? The Cochran art from how am I forgetting the writer? Not cool, Chris Claremont, from the Chris Claremont days, right? Everybody knows, oh, Claremont. But do you remember the artists from back then? And there were a couple, but each artist had their own time and their own. It's almost easier to, sometimes, not with the X-Men, but it's almost easier to look at the time of the art as opposed to something else, because the artists would usually get together and have a very similar, right? During the Jim Lee days of X-Men, could you just have some schmuck come along and start drawing the X-Men for a second book while Lee was on that first book? Hells no. No, because people would be like, this book sucks because we got this book, right? It could not happen. So there's a certain design per era that people can kind of lock onto. You can look at this and this is one of the perfect books to look at and to say, this is the Scheide era of X-Men, right? When you look at all the people who are currently doing the Marcus Toes, right? All the different artists who are currently doing X-Men, this is the era, this is the design that's out there. This is not something, there's no way this could be something that they just randomly put together. No. Editors got together and they said, hold on. I mean, and it helps when one of the people in charge of the company happens to be an artist, right? And a good artist too. I'm talking about Quesada. Good artist, really good. It can't be coincidental that you have a bunch of artists with a similar style getting together and drawing in a very recognizable pattern that you could skip and just go, okay, yeah, this looks similar to this one, looks similar to this one, looks enough, right? That's the style, that's the design. Huge props to something like that. Back to the story. X-Force attacking Orcus. I think it makes more sense than pretty much anything else, right? It's only three members of a team. It's small, but it's really diverse also, right? You got your telepathic powerhouse. You got, what do you call it? Wolverine, who's just the sneak in and just tear things up, tear shit up, whatever, right? Tear your ass out, which he did in this. It's when Wolverine's going up against a robot, you know it's going to be a messy scene. It's usually not a bloody scene. People don't like to draw Wolverine and, cutting people into pieces and whatnot. Maybe vampires, because everybody can agree with that. Ain't no Comics Code Authority to take vampires out of comics anymore, but yeah, Wolverine going up against a robot, hells yes. And it happens to be a very cool robot. I mean, I don't know if anybody's ever seen that robot before, but like you get what I'm saying, right? You get the gist. And then you got Domino, who's going to round out the team. It would be nice to see like a Colossus join the team. You know what I'm saying? I know he was on X-Force for a while, but Beast is an asshole. Anyway, it's Evil Beast. I'm telling you, it's still Evil Beast. It's got to be. It'd be nice to see Cable, right? I just read that Cable book not too long ago. It'd be really good to see the old X-Force, the original X-Force get together, right? Just Liefeld the hell out of Orcus. I bet you'd be over to Heartbeat. But this was good. What's especially good is how bad it is. What? The humans mention, hold on now. These guys keep on attacking us and these are mutants. The big thing with mutants is evolution. That's why we hate them, because they're going to replace us pretty soon. We have to, combine with machines in order to, read the Hoxpox stuff, in order to compete with humans, or with mutants, right? But they keep on attacking us, and they don't seem to be evolving. There's something there. There's a plan. Let's take it a step further. What's the one thing that I kept saying about Wolverine? I said, you kill Wolverine and suddenly you got a problem here, right? Because you kill Wolverine and he's not back at home. Who collects that adamantium skeleton? Who makes the new adamantium? Is Proteus just going around making new adamantium all the time? Maybe. I would like to know. I'm an inquiring mind. I would like to know. Does anybody remember that old jingle? Inquiring minds want to know. I want to know. When you see a whole lab, pretty much a storage, with a bunch of Wolverine skeletons in what looks like what equates to Bacta tanks, right? I was sitting to look at this like, Now, if I knew they were going to do something like that, and I couldn't, because no predictors of the future, no clairvoyance, they're not allowed to be on the island. They're not allowed to be alive anymore, right? Anyway, y'all know what's coming. I would say, you know what? I bet you they're going to keep the adamantium skeletons, because why wouldn't you? I would. If I saw a piece of Wolverine's bone, adamantium laced, sitting there, hell, if I saw one of Bullseye's bones, partially adamantium laced, I'd be like, Walk away with that crap. Why you walking like that? Hurt my rib. Piss off, mother fathead. I got a bone to pick with you. I just picked a bone. Piss off. You know, so I keep on going. Like, I would love to get my hands on some adamantium, especially if it were real. Especially if I was smart enough, I'd have to be the evil genius. I got the laugh for twirl the mustache. I grew my mustache just to twirl it, just so that I could learn how to manipulate adamantium and be like, yeah, now I got an adamantium hand. You know, they always say keep your pimp hand strong. Bitch. That's what I would do. I'd be like Cypher up in here. You know what I'm saying? Just with the hand, though. Banded and everything. Bruh. If I had any clue they would be keeping those skeletons, which why wouldn't they? I would find a way to booby trap them. So if enough of them get together, all of a sudden, hey, that's not adamantium, that's vibranium. But not T'Challa's vibranium, that's Antarctic vibranium. That's the stuff that comes from the Savage Land. That's the stuff that melts other metals. I would just do something like that. You get enough of it together, it starts to interact with each other, and it suddenly activates, and what happens? Melts a big hole through the Orcus station. Oh, but let's take it to another level. There's no gravity in space. It's a vacuum. And nature abhors a vacuum. So suddenly that stuff starts going all over the place. And it jacks some mother fat head up. All of a sudden, here's Magneto with a third try to put that big space station into that Dyson sphere into the freaking sun. No brain aneurysm this time, hopefully. Right? I'm saying they're keeping those skeletons. I hope the X-Men are smart enough to do something about that. Because it seems like they're going there purposefully just to fail. So that those skeletons could all build up there. I'm hoping that we see something along those lines. Moving on. Because I moved on. I came to a part where horticulture was being mentioned. And I'm like, I never really liked horticulture. Right? Got that current agenda stuff where it's like, oh, they're just old ladies who have the ability to remove your freaking mutant powers, which makes them like weapons of mass destruction to Krakoans. That makes them a genuine threat. And they've shown that they're smart and wicked and do all sorts of bad granny stuff. I'm saying. Not all mutants are going to be the whole Cyclops like, oh, come on, you silly old ladies. Let me help you cross the street and stop taking away my optic pew-pew powers, right? My heat vision. How many people did I just trigger with that? Concussive blasts, I know. Everybody knows. I think that there'd be plenty of mutants on there, like Gorgon, who'd be more than happy to go in there and just whoop some old lady's ass. You know what I'm saying? Like, it ain't nothing for me to whoop an old woman's ass. Like, I would love to see some Roy D. Mercer stuff, you know, like attacks in that regard. Just something along those lines. How big old girl are you? But let me tell you something. I stopped reading it. I just like a big bunch and just skip up. Like, how many pages can I skip? Because what did I see? I saw monkeys. Look, I have a rule. I don't read monkeys. I don't read apes. I don't read simians. All right? I don't read the common ancestor. I don't read that stuff. All right? I don't do that. Hate monkeys in comics. All right? I see a monkey in real life. I'm just like, man, you better back the hell off. I don't like me no monkey. Two things I don't like. I don't like raccoons. I don't like monkeys. Okay? Rocket's okay, but I still remember he's a goddamn trash panda, and they're terrifying at night when you're out in the woods alone, or even with a group of freaking well-trained military folk. Raccoons don't care. Raccoon will whoop your ass. Ugh. But monkeys, I just can't stand seeing freaking monkeys in freaking comics, man. I see this Planet of the Apes stuff, I'm just like, no. Nah. No, I'm just not interested. You know what I'm saying? So I skipped this whole part. I know, there's a whole bunch of people would be pissed off. How are you going to tell me you reviewed a comic book, Professor? If you skipped over a big chunk of the comic book, I'll tell you how. Because I do what I want to do. That's why. I don't read. I have a get out of jail free card. I don't read stuff with monkeys. It's as simple as that. I saw monkey face people. I'm like, we out. I'm going. Bye. I don't have to read your monkey stuff. All right. I got to do two things in life: stay black and die. Look, I already fucked up one of those things. I'm not messing up the other. Although that would be the thing to mess up, and then I would probably be a Krakoan because then I wouldn't die. But anyway, moving on, bro. You get to a little bit later on in the book, sans monkeys, and you see the whole Destiny thing coming up. This crap blew my mind. This is stuff that made me say, I've definitely got to talk about this. Because all the other stuff I talked about before, I was like, if I was going to do a review of this stuff, this is the stuff I would talk about, obviously. I'm so used to doing reviews that when I read a comic book, I'm just like, point, 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 point. These are things that I would like to talk about. You know? This case is like, nothing about like, I have to talk about this. I don't care who listens. Just, it is what it is. I'm putting this stuff out there, right? The biggest question that everybody had as far as what's going to happen in the X universe was, how is Sinister eventually going to betray them? I think we just saw it. I think we just saw how Sinister betrays them. Because this mother fathead, he decided when he was told all traces of Destiny must be erased. Destiny cannot exist anymore. I'll wipe her out of Cerebro. You wipe out her genetic pattern. We will cause her to cease to exist. You know, when I used to read the old face rip books way back in the day, and I still got a bunch right here, photocopied, deal with it. They would talk about what it takes to kill an Olympian and certain other immortals, like true immortals, right? The elders of the universe and all that stuff. You'd have to atomize them and spread their molecules far enough across the universe that they couldn't really come back together again. Impossible to do with a concept like Galactus. But that's pretty much what they're doing here. They're talking about trying to destroy all evidence of her. Wow. We go back and we see more. We get a repeat of some of the stuff, and this is a thing that Jonathan Hickman does. He'll give us flashbacks in comic books. Not something you typically want to do unless you know what you're doing. Hickman knows how to do a damn flashback. And he adds to it also. That was the thing that made me the most excited. I actually got excited about seeing a flashback because I have a pretty damn good memory. I don't need flashbacks. You show me a flashback in comics, I'm mostly looking to see what you're going to add to it. Hickman never disappoints with a flashback. Add some more to it. More of what Destiny says to Moira. The anger, the fear. You know, they talk about show, don't tell. When you're talking about a novel, how much more so in a comic book? One of the reasons why I strongly dislike most big two comic books nowadays is because these writers and obviously these editors really just don't get it. In a book, like in a novel, you know what I'm saying? I'm point to stuff that you can't see on camera. In my novels down here, I don't want you to tell me the wind blew cold across the barren lands and what. Man, tell me Conan hiked through snow up to his knees. What do you call it? He shivered I don't know. He didn't want to shiver, but he freaking well did. Whatever. Freaking words, all right? Shivered uncontrollably. There we go. As he hefted his sword, freezing in his fingertips, across the empty wasteland. And then so on and so forth about his goal, right? You don't have to say, it was snowy, it was cold, did nothing around. All right, I don't want to say he. Further on, there were uh, he would give many kings a set a kingdom for a horse. Conan would give anything for a single tree with which to collect wood to burn, but there were none in this land. You know, something along those lines. Don't tell me, show me, right? Make me believe, make me work for understand, work for my meal, so to speak. Let me understand on my own, because humans want to learn this stuff on their own. Whatever that rule is with novels, it is 1,000 times more with comic books. There shouldn't be that many damn words. Anytime you see exposition or an info dump in a comic book, that comic book has failed miserably because there are pictures. You know what I'm saying? There are pictures in the comic book. You don't need to tell me a goddamn thing. There are pictures. Yeah, for Christ's sake, connect the damn dots isn't necessary. I can see what's happening. Don't tell me Captain Marvel fired her photon blast. Bitch, I'm looking at it. You know what I'm saying? Shoot. Like, this is what I'm talking about. You don't need to do stupid stuff like that. You can see the stuff. Here, I didn't see a single thing that indicated that she was afraid, except the pictures. Some of those pictures, this goes back to the art, were in the reflective face of Mystique. Right? This comic book, man, it gave you nothing. You worked for it. There were plenty of things in here to decipher that I'm sitting here looking at going, it could be this, it could be that, could be a mistake, I don't know. But I really look forward to seeing. Guys, I hate the idea they're calling this Inferno. I get it. If they don't change, you burn the island to the ground. Right? That was the words Destiny gave to Moira. Now, make a mistake. There are plenty of plot holes in here. Possibly. We're not there yet. We got to look at the idea that Destiny could have just been like, listen, why would I reveal my trump card that, me? Why would I do that? I've got the freaking, at the time they were the Freedom Force, right? They weren't the evil mutants and all that stuff. They were actually Freedom Force at the time, that particular retinue that was there. They could have very simply, Destiny could have very simply been like, here's what you need to do. Okay? And you know what? If you want, here, take this walkie-talkie. Don't say my name. Don't say my name. Call me Al or Ann, whatever. Just, all right? Don't do that. Call me Madam Webb. Really mess with her. Right? Why would you reveal yourself? If you're a fragile old woman, and you know that this girl is going to remember stuff before you do, why would you do something like that? Ever? Bro, plenty of plot holes, all right? But as it stands, what we're reading right now, that's the thing. When you make something interesting enough, you could forgive plot holes. I'm just kind of focused on now in other ways that could have branched. But anyway, I look at this and I say, there's so much here, so much to look forward to, so much to try and break down and break apart, so many mysteries to unravel. I think that's mostly what we want. Mostly one of the things that gets us coming back. Even somebody like me who looks at a title like Inferno and says, if you guys didn't like Jim Shooter, why are you using all this stuff? Whenever people say comic books aren't for kids, no, excuse me. Whenever the bigwigs at Marvel right now say, I don't care what anybody says, comic books are for kids. They could be for kids, but they weren't written for kids. Back in the day, Marvel likes to show a Stan soapbox once in a while. I remember reading plenty of Stan soapboxes where he talked about, we didn't write comic books for kids, we wrote them for adults. We wrote them for adults, but so that kids could follow along too. That's how Marvel was, for the most part, always done back in the day. When it was extremely successful. when I read comic books nowadays and I see that they just keep on doing the old Julius Schwartz thing where, oh, every 5 years, just rehash an old comic book cycle. Cool. It's interesting that we've been seeing a lot of, Secret Wars and all these other things that have been done in the past that were successfully done in the past. And they're done nowadays. They're not nearly as good, right? Civil War, Part 2, and more. The New Armor Wars, all these old storylines that, when they sit there and say, hey, comic books were better when I was a kid. Okay. And people don't like to hear that. The people who do the comic books, they really hate to hear that. Yeah, comics were better when you were a kid. Rah, rah, rah. Well, if they didn't believe that, who were making the comic books, why would they give us another Inferno? And this is not Inferno. And of course, somehow Mr. Sinister is in the middle of Inferno. Is Madeline Pryor going to show up also? Right? Is this going to be the birth of Cable? That's the big thing. That's the big thing that really bothers me about some of this stuff. They say one thing, but they're talking out of the other side of their mouth. I hate the idea that they're making another story called Inferno, right? Hate the idea that they're going to take all these old stories. How many times do we need to see the trial of Magneto? It was done in the Avengers. It was done in the Avengers and, it was done in the Avengers X-Men crossover, and it was done in the X-Men. It doesn't need to be done again. How many times is Magneto going to be put on trial? Once every 5 years now? Once every 10. Let's make it fair, right? We don't need to see nonsense like that. Make new stories. How about that? Put a little work into it. How about that, right? So it bothers me to see stuff like that. And I was really against the idea of reading this. And something just said, look at it anyway. If anything, just to confirm your own bias. Well, I'm glad to see that I was wrong. I'm glad to see that I was able to read this and just fall in love with this. Am I going to keep on reading it? I'm probably going to keep on reading Inferno. If it winds up turning, or doing something stupid, I'll probably do another review on it. If it winds up doing something I'm just like, wow, I didn't expect that, I'll probably do a review on it. If it's just one of those issues where it's like, cool, stuff happens, whatever, you can just read it on your own. You know what I'm saying? You don't need a review for everything. But every so often I come across something that I really like or I really dislike, or just see something in there that's unique, either good or bad. Got to do a review on it. And that's why I'm here for this. This was, against my better judgment, a really good issue. I look forward to seeing where this goes. I want to see this stuff get wrapped up. I want to see the Moira stuff get wrapped up. It's interesting to see her falling apart at the seams. It's interesting to see, oh, by the way, guys, like the video, watch an ad. It's interesting to see Moira. Everything's not quite working the way that she expected it to work. What do you mean I drank a little bit of tea? And we saw it. Way back, was it in Hoxpox or was it immediately after, like in the Dawn of X stuff? I forget. But it was right around that beginning time when we saw them serve her tea, right? Right before they went in for the council. That's what I'm talking about. Hickman planned that. That wasn't accidental. You know what I'm saying? This goes back to the idea of Chekhov's gun. And don't have a damn gun on the wall in Act 1 if by Act 3 that gun doesn't somehow go off and have some kind of an impact on the stuff. Otherwise, you just leave all that stuff bare. You can bare walls. It's good. Have bears hanging all over the walls. Homonym. Actually, I'm a phone. Different spelling. But the idea is that you see that Moira, who's always been in control, she's always been a puppet master, always been manipulating. Suddenly she sees one little bit of manipulation, and all of a sudden it's like the whole world is caving in for her. That burn her slowly thing must have really effed her up. Now the ending of the comic book. If you didn't read the comic book, now's the time to leave. Dead serious. When you see Mystique, she just comes out and she's all like smiles. She's been pissed for a while. She's been pissed. You wonder, like, why is she smiling? She's not happy about anything. They're not giving her love back. They're not giving her girl back. Right? What's going on? And she starts thinking, you guys think you know what you're doing. You stayed on long enough in order to get rid of Destiny forever. Now you want to retire in peace? That's cool. How about you do retire? And I've already got a vote for someone to take one of your all's shoes. Oh, and this does something. Because what happened in the beginning of the book? Why does Emma Frost have Cerebro and Magneto and Charles Xavier are coming out of that freaking ichor of life, that goo? Why are they all gooey goo? Destiny comes walking out. How'd this happen? Who did they convince to use the memory stuff? Because it's one thing, like, did they get the 5 together to make a new body? Or did Mr. Sinister just has his own way of doing things? He could do his own things. Hey, how was he able to make clones? Besides the fact that he's Mr. effing Sinister, didn't Madeline Pryor take over the old orphanage that Sinister controlled? That had all that stuff in there. I was reading the Helion's books also, mother fathead. There's all sorts of ways that Sinister could have made his own body. For her. For Destiny. The question is how they get the mind. How did they get the mind in there? Does it even matter? Because she could see the future. Maybe she could see more than just that. Is she one of the few mutants who could actually see everything as long as she comes back? As long as she's breathing. As long as her mind is in a non-persistent vegetative state. Plenty of questions to be asked. Maybe they'll be answered, maybe they won't. I hope they are. I want to know how this happened. Did somebody else come along and get Cerebro? If so, who? Right? There are 5 Cerebros hanging around. Did somebody break in and snag a Cerebro? Who? Who'd they convince to do it? God. This is what I'm talking about. This is what I'm talking about. Was it a simple thing where they're like, oh, it's Mystique. She could be anyone. Does she disguise herself as somebody or whatever and sneak in and just put Destiny's name in the list for resurrection and just bloop? Right? Professor X can't be awake all the time. Who was bringing people back? Because they got a litany of people they're supposed to be bringing back. Who did they have? Who got tricked? What happened? Maybe it was Psylocke. Maybe it was Quanon. Think about it. Who's Sinister got wrapped around his little finger? Right? She's powerful enough to do that. To put a mind back into place, to use Cerebro in the first place. This is what I'm talking about. Gets people talking. Gets people thinking. Makes all these little conspiracy theories start working like clockwork. This is one of the things that makes me say that Hickman is just one of the best out there. It's not perfect. Nobody is. Nobody is. Right? But damn, if you're going to take some writers out there and put them on that pedestal, Hickman's name belongs up there with some of the best. I love that he's got us thinking. Guys, that's going to be it for me. I think this video is long enough. God damn! 38 minutes. Like the video, watch an ad. Professor Bill, Comic Book University. Class dismissed.